Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about American politics. And I'm very excited because I now know what Peter Zeihan said about being wrong about the Donald Trump election. So Peter Zeihan, if you don't know him, he's boy, are you lucky now. He's absolutely brilliant. He wrote a book about 10 years ago about one critical nation other than America, and then like what ended up happening was a bunch of people were like, oh my gosh, Zeihan called it about this major nation. Everything he said is right. And if you read the book, it looks prophetic because it was written a decade ago, and everything he said was going to happen is happening, right? So he is a global demographics expert, and he's absolutely brilliant. And I listen to him every day, and he's generally a truth source, in my humble opinion. But he got the election wrong. He got it dead wrong. He actually thought Kamala Harris was going to win. Now, why? Well, basically, I love this language. He split it up. He's like, there's MAGA and there's the elites. And I love being able to like reduce groups to one word, right? And that's accurate, right? Like MAGA voted for Trump and elites voted for Kamala, right? And now both of those are freighted, right? And they have, content within them, right? But it's really it's very important to understand that versus MAGA and elites. And all the elites got it wrong. All the elites got it wrong. Now, why did they get it wrong? Well, this is really interesting. I really think we're going to learn something huge from this election. And one of them is that urban, educated, this is interesting. Let's just say elites, right? These elites, they have a lot of higher education. Because of that, they have wealth, right? And so if you have higher education and you have all this knowledge and you have all this wealth, you should be able to determine the truth about things. But we're now learning that's not the case at all, right? Now, why is that? Oh, and by the way, the MAGAs did not get this wrong. The MAGAs knew that Trump was going to destroy Kamala Harris, destroy her virtually, right? And he did. It was a landslide, right? A lot of people are debating that. It's definitely a landslide. He really beat her bad, right? All right, so let's get into this. How did the MAGA know with very little knowledge? And how did the elites have no ability to know this very obvious thing, right? This should not have been difficult. There was no data to check. You should have been able to tell just right out of the gate what was happening, right? All right, so let me explain this. So the MAGA, they have a little bit of knowledge, just a tiny bit, the smallest bit of knowledge. But they have a container they can contain wisdom in, right? And then they know they are and then finally they have a spiritual capacity that gives them actually, you know what? Let me keep it straight. They have a little bit of knowledge. They have a container for wisdom, right? And then finally, they have self-awareness. They know exactly who they are. They are laborers. They are people who have to struggle every day. They are people with grit, right? And all of this is important. Very, very important. Now, let's talk about the elites. They have a huge amount of knowledge. But when they got that knowledge, literally the first thing that they were told is that you know nothing. It's Socrates, right? And they're like, oh, hey, you're going to read a whole bunch of books, but we want you to know you know nothing. You know nothing. And boy, do they end up knowing nothing, right? They have a huge amount of knowledge, but none of it can actually get them to the truth. And the reason why is that the container that a normal human being would use to contain wisdom is destroyed by the time it is destroyed by higher education, right? What has more wisdom than anything in the world? Proverbs. Go talk to a higher education and say, hey, what's a great source for wisdom? Any MAGA will tell you the book of Proverbs has, tons of little witticisms that you could spend your entire life mastering one of them, and every single one of them would be worth it. A higher education person would laugh at any verse in Proverbs, laugh at it. So they don't even have a container to contain wisdom. They can only look at wisdom. They can never even hold it because their ability to process wisdom has been completely and utterly destroyed. Okay? Finally, they have no self-awareness to the point where they never know who they are, right? Who are you today? Well, let me pick. Let me change this attribute. Maybe I'm this. Maybe I don't. Maybe I've never known exactly what I was, who I was, how I was. I better go pay $200 to a couch scribbler to find out. Let somebody else tell me who I am. And this is astounding, right? Like, so, and it's complete opposite of what you would expect, right? Every MAGA knew the truth. They knew that Trump was about to destroy Harris, right? But every elite had all the data and no ability to tell the truth. And this is shocking, right? This is shocking. And what it really means is that we have to fix higher education. We have to fix higher education so that once you go to higher education, you don't destroy your wisdom container and destroy your self-awareness. And we didn't know this until now, that this was what the election was doing, right? That actually, we didn't know that this was what higher education was doing, right? Giving you a huge amount of knowledge, destroying your ability to even hold a scrap of wisdom, and destroying your self-awareness. You end up coming out of higher education with a mountain of knowledge, no ability to even perceive wisdom, right? And no ability to perceive self, right? And now we look over and we're like, oh my gosh, that guy who just finished a day of labor, he has a tiny bit of knowledge, but he has a chance to know true wisdom, and he knows exactly who he is. That is deep. That is profound. And I didn't see it until I heard Zeihan talk, right? And Zeihan is this all the way. He's got knowledge. He's got a mountain of knowledge, right? He has no ability to perceive wisdom. And all he can look at is knowledge. All he can look at is data, right? And then finally, he has absolutely no self-awareness. He does not know who he is. And he is susceptible to somebody coming and saying, you are fundamentally different in a really unusual way that you didn't expect, right? You aren't who you thought you were. You aren't who you've always been. That's huge. That is a huge new understanding of America, in my humble opinion, and higher education in America. Now, does that mean you shouldn't get higher education? No, I don't think that's correct. I literally have 2 degrees, right? Like, I have a bachelor's and I have a master's degree. And I would never tell someone not to go to college, right? What you have to do is we have to start figuring out infiltration of higher education, how to get into higher education, keep the knowledge, but then preserve our wisdom container so that we can hold wisdom and preserve our sense of self. Every single word you just heard is my humble opinion. The important part is when I get to hear your humble opinion, when you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a fetch millennium.